So we are going to talk about intrusion detection. So there are only three parts. Who are the intruders? How do we detect them? And the main thing is the password. So how do we manage the passwords? So some of the concepts, actually, it was not a very good chapter in intrusion detection, the books chapter. So I had to borrow some material from other places. So please listen carefully. Obviously you have to read the whole book chapter as well, because that is also here. So it's an extension of that. First of all, intrusion simply means somebody breaks into your system, misuses your system, or uses the system what they're not supposed to use it for. All those things are intrusion. Intruders could be anybody who is inside or outside. Alright, so you don't want outside people to come and intrude in your system, but you don't want inside people to intrude in your system. Alright, and we'll talk about that too, that the insiders also are a threat. So vulnerability is basically any weakness that can be used by the attacker, and the threat is the party that is going to use that vulnerability. So you might have some vulnerabilities, say for example wireless, open wireless, and then so the people who can use that open wireless are the threat. There are two kinds of threats, or intruders you can call them: structured threat and unstructured threat. Unstructured threat is just one person somewhere, going around and looking to do something, and that is not as dangerous as structured threat these days. These days, the whole governments could be after your website. The whole organization competition could be after your system, and whole newspaper might be after your system. We have seen all those cases recently, right? So, so structured threats are becoming more and more of a problem. Structured threat means, people are just working to are paid to do this thing, and they're working for a company to do that. So intrusion generally means coming in. Extrusion generally means going out. So we have intrusion detection. So somebody who is trying to come in, and extrusion is somebody who is trying to send out information. For example, might be visiting bad sites or stealing information from outside, but you are responsible because it is your company. And it's your computer. And so in some sense, even if it is a personal computer and somebody finds out that some illegal activity was done, then you have to prove that that was an extrusion. It was not you, somebody else did it, right? So the extrusion is important as well as intrusion. So here are some examples. Remote root compromise. Root. What is a root? Root is the administrator's account on Unix, right? And I'm not sure if that is the same thing applies for Macs. But is the Macs also have the root? Okay. So if you get the root password, you got the whole system. So that is obviously, the most important thing. And that's what the people intruding are looking for first. If they can't find a root, then they will find your password. And then, so another example is web server defacement. So most of the government websites generally find themselves when they come in to the work at 9 o'clock that the website says something different. That includes CIA, FIA, you name any agencies, FBI, and so on and so forth. People take pride in breaking such things. Guessing or cracking passwords. And so obviously, if they cannot get the root, they will try to get somebody else's password. Copying or viewing sensitive data or databases. So trying to find out some information that you are not supposed to know. Somebody's grade, somebody's salary, and so on. Running a packet snuffer. Just seeing all the traffic, recording all the traffic on the network. Distributing pirated software. So that's also an example of, I don't know, I would rather call it extrusion, but anyways, it's a question mark here, is that installing some software which is not legal. If it is installed on the company website, then obviously company can be sued, right? So one has to know about that too. Using an unsecured modem to access net. So you could just plug in your phone line to a computer, and then that becomes a modem. Anybody can dial in. And once they can dial in, you probably did it for yourself, but somebody else can dial in and then get to your company's network inside. And it is more often done by wireless, using an unsecured wireless, network, which could be a computer or it could be an access point, installing one in the company. Impersonating a user to reset password. And then this is called social engineering, is that, you call the company and say, look, I am at the airport, I'm vice president so-and-so, and I'm stuck, I got to get this password now. All right? And whoever picks up the phone on the other side will reset the password and tell you what the new password is. And then, they don't realize that they gave it to somebody who is a hacker. Using an unattended workstation, and then you walk into some office, the computer is open, just change the password, now it's yours. And the actual person cannot log in, they will probably change it the next time they boot or do something else, but until then it's yours. So those are just examples, not a complete list. So there are three categories of intruders. One is a hacker whose motivation simply might be to have fun and to have a status, to go and brag that, look, I broke Apple, or I broke this and that, right? Hacking community is a strong meritocracy. Meritocracy means, smartness. Who is smarter than who? And whoever is smarter rises to the top there. The status is determined by the level of competence, and therefore the companies have formed what they call CERTs. CERTs are computer emergency response teams. So every company has emergency response teams whose job is basically to not only respond but also to do it beforehand, which means basically test the system out, collect all the vulnerabilities, and then take care of it before or after the attack happens. All right, so CERT is the keyword that you learn here, CERT. Then criminal enterprises. That's more dangerous. As we said, that is organized groups of hackers. This is a whole bunch of people working together, which could be just an organized group of hackers, could be a company, could be a government. And for example, lots of such things have happened from Russian and Eastern European countries, and so that is one example. Often target credit cards on e-commerce servers, and their target is to just get your credit card database. So obviously, on a personal basis, you should not store your credit card on any website. Most websites, when you go and buy, they say, well, can we store the information for future? You say no. Hopefully they will follow your advice, your request. And if you said yes, then obviously they're going to save it, and then somebody can get to it. Internal threat. Now, internal threat is basically some people want to be ready when they're terminated to destroy the company, and or they're not very happy with whatever is going on in the company right now, and so one has to be careful about them. And there have been many cases where the internal designs or internal data has been taken to the other company. So very big companies like Apple, HP, Cisco, they have sued each other, for transfer of one employee. When the employee went there, they started developing a product which was very similar to what they were doing in the previous company, and so that's not fair. And this is unlimited field. Basically, we could go on examples and categories, right? This is not the complete list in some sense, but this is a good way to just categorize outside, inside. For outside, two categories: structured and unstructured. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's basically. Here is the thing. Suppose a search warrant is issued, and they find a job-related CD or program or something at your home. You are not supposed to carry anything which belonged to the company to your personal possession, right? So only thing you are supposed to have is a personal thing, and the company can come after you personally as well as for the obviously the competition that you're working for now. From the competition, if you are not working for a competition, then they will come after you. I mean, so I don't know. The thing is, this all is documented in the employment contracts, and I have never read my own employment contracts, so I don't really know what is all there. But we have seen the news items. That's all I can say. I mean, the simplest thing, if somebody wants to be clear, then, you go to the boss and say, look, I have this CD, which is this thing, which I don't think now company is interested in. Can I take it, or whatever it is, right? Company gave up this project 10 years ago, something like that. That might be the best safe bet, because there are lots of things, good things you did, and the company doesn't want it anymore and doesn't care for it anymore. That's the key. The company doesn't care for it anymore. They might say, no, even though, you did it, but we paid for it, so leave it here. Then the question is, if you develop a new product, whether the old code is there or not, and things like that, it's very difficult to do this thing. And companies have sued each other. They found each other's code, and then they said, look, there are 10 lines which are exactly the same 10 lines here. So how did that happen? So, and you know that iPhone is suing Android, and because of that, and and so this thing continues forever. Sorry, I don't have exact answer to your question, but this is a legal question. These are the things, kind of things that the hackers will generally do. They will first use the IP lookup tools to find the target. Then they will do the map of the network. I mean, we did some of this actually in our first hacker exercises that we did in this course. We used how to map the network, and then how to scan the networks to find out what is open. So open, that is potentially vulnerable services. Then we also did the password guessing. Password, just brute force. We tried, all 999 possible passwords. Install remote administration tool, and then what they will do is, once they have 1 or 2 passwords, then they can install anything which allows remote administration, like what is the tool we generally use for remote administration? Desktop is clearly there in Windows, but there is another tool we use in open source, starting with VNC. VNC. Has anybody used VNC? Nobody used VNC? You have used. So VNC is a tool that allows you to control another computer from here. I mean, it's a public domain, so you can install VNC on that computer and VNC on this computer, and you can do everything on that computer from here. So one day a bank officer walked into the office and found that his mouse was moving by itself, and that was being remotely controlled, right? Because they had installed actually not a VNC, but they had installed semantics window, something. There is a semantic tool for that same thing too, for remote control. And there are many other tools for remote control. And there are some which are totally invisible too. I mean, there are some which are visible. And so, install remote administration tool. Wait for admin to log on and capture password. So basically that is what another thing is, that they could do sniffing, traffic sniffing on the wireless or the wired network. And then whenever admin logs in, they might get the password. Use password to access the remainder of the network, and then they use the password to access the remainder of the network. It's kind of clear, right? Criminal enterprises, and if this is another country or another company, and so they are much, much smarter, because this is now collective wisdom. These are experts, professionals who have been hired and trained to do this, and so they are harder to detect. They come and go very fast. Actually, I heard a story, I mean, basically that one country's whole radar system was disabled for the duration when other country wanted to bomb them. So for 1 hour or 2 hours, no radar. So this is the kind of thing that the countries can do to each other. Exploit perimeter via vulnerable ports. So basically, if something is open, then they will just enter it. Trojan horses, and they leave back doors for re-entry again. And this is actually, even the hackers do the same thing. Use sniffers to capture password, of course. Do not stick around until noticed. So these guys will go away much faster than the hackers. and make few or no mistakes. So these guys actually, as I said, are smarter than the hackers, and so difficult. Insider behavior. Insider people could just create network accounts for themselves and their friends. So they could create some account that you don't know about, and they could log into those accounts. Access account and applications they would not normally use for their daily jobs. So they could use some, like we said, grading data, financial data, any other data that they are not allowed. Email former and prospective employers looking for a job. Conduct furtive instant messaging chats. So instant messaging is a waste of time, but at the same time, furtive, I think here probably means that something that gives out the information. I'm not really sure about that word, but basically that's what I think would be damaging. Visiting websites that cater to disgruntled employees, such as, and they have used the 4-letter word, thecompany.com. There are websites, for anything. You just look for Walmart, you look for any big company, and there are legal websites which are named like that, and they are for people who really hate those companies. I'm sure if you just look at the word hatewalmart.com, you will find it. So if Walmart employee is accessing hatewalmart.com, then you got to be careful about them, right? Perform large downloads and file copying. And they are running uTorrents or something like that on the work, then you know that there is some problem. Access the network during off hours. So these are some of the things that you got to watch out for, is that they're doing things which are not usual. Techniques. First of all, find the open ports. So to find the software vulnerabilities. So software vulnerability is not just the open port, it could be other things, could be something in the software, some kind of buffer overflow or some kind of other overflows. Key goal often is to acquire password, and not only buffer overflow. For example, some of these web servers, both Microsoft as well as the public domain, people had found out some holes in there that they could execute their code by visiting the website. All right? So those are the kinds of things that could be found out by them. Key goal is often to acquire the passwords. Once they get the password, then they just can do anything inside. And so first thing is to gather the information. Then once you get the password, then you can access the system, and then somehow change your privilege to higher level, and then cover the track so that nobody can find out what you did. Now login is very easy to find out. Login is that everybody knows everybody else's login, because if you know their email address, you know what is their login name. Very few people have an email address which is not their login name. Right? So that is easy. Now the next thing you have to find is the password. So password is basically to guess it, and you could guess the variations on the name, birthday, phone, common, interest, and so on and so forth. And so that would make, if one of those is a password, that would make it very easy, and if that is one of those is not, then they will do exhaustive searching. And exhaustive searching of 1-letter, 2-letter, 3-letter, 4-letter, 5-letter password is very easy on any computer. In few seconds, few minutes you can do it, right? So nowadays the standard today is 8 characters or less, 8 characters or more. Well, I'm sure 5 years from now 8 characters will be too short. And so that's the thing, is that right now 8 characters people find it difficult to do exhaustive search. Check by login or against the stolen password file. And then what they will do is, it's easy to get the password file. That's not a secret, because once you get onto the system, there is a particular location where the password file is kept. You can download the file. Now you guess the password and you check it whether it is the same thing in the password file. Password file, as you know, is hashed, is not clear, right? But you can compare your hash with that, with the one you are guessing. Another attack involves password capture. And capture could be by eyes, or could be by Trojan horse, or could be by a sniffer, or could be an insecure network login. If you do FTP and you are not on a secure connection, everybody can see the FTP communication. And there are many other things that people do on the web even, for example, you go to the website, and very easy to get that is just open your own website which has some useful information, and people have to register for that information. So they have to select a username and password. There is one more thing I found is that you go to many places to register something. You're registering for Facebook, and they will say, can you give us your Gmail account password so we can write to all your Gmail friends? Or we are going to give you an iPad and then give your Gmail password. I think that's basically something right away is a dangerous thing. You should not give your one password to another site. And so some people did that mistake, and some really respectable people. And then I got an email from this side saying that, oh, your friend, is recommending that you do this. I said, come on, how did he got into this one? First of all. So they get your email password. Now they're writing to all your correspondence. And so for the email password, let me tell you one more story. So a friend of mine sent me an email that I'm stuck in Africa and I need the cash right away. Please send me by whatever that express is. How you will send cash? Western Union, right? Western Union. So my normal reaction was, okay, maybe this friend is, in trouble, so you cannot just ignore this thing, right? I said, okay, why don't you tell me your phone? I want to talk to you on the phone. So the email comes back, sorry, I don't have any phone access here. You have email access, but you don't have phone access, right? All right. So then I said, well, I don't think I can do anything until, I can talk to you. And so 1 week later, I get an email from this guy. Sorry, if you got an email like this, my email account was hacked, and somebody was using my email account. Now I don't know how many people send him money or not, but that's a common scam. Is that if somebody gets your email password, they could just act like you and ask for favors, right? In this case, I came very close to it in the sense that I really felt that I should send him some money, but I just didn't want to send cash. And not to a person who I might not even talk to. But anyway, all right. So much about the password guessing and capture. So whatever technique we talk about has a positive and negative thing, in the sense that suppose this is a normal user behavior, blue thing, and red is the abnormal. This is what the hackers do. So generally, whatever intrusion detection technique we have, we'll try to catalog all of these as intrusions. So some of the good activities, some of the people who are not really hacking will be counted as hackers. We call them false negative. Sorry. This is blue one. Some of the good activities will be counted as hackers, and we call them false positive. Sorry, false positive. It's like, you don't have a cancer and somebody tells you that you have a cancer. You're not a hacker and somebody tells you you are a hacker. That's a false positive. That can really, destroy some lives. And then there is this part where you are a hacker, but you are counted as normal. So you're not detected. That is called false negative. And we are talking about the small numbers here, in the sense that first of all, the chances of abnormality might be 1% or 2%. So 99% of people are good. Right? 1% is a hacker. Now you are trying to detect that 1%, and these probabilities are in the same range, right? So if you do the conditional probabilities, they come out in a really bad number. So what happens is you caught 1%, but it turns out all of them are really normal activities or something like that. So then people don't believe anymore, that this test works. But anyway, so the key thing is that you should know what is a false positive and what is a false negative. False positive means it's not bad, but declared bad. False negative means it's bad, but declared good.